Parsing Ušetbûšu-ma in Hammurapi Law 5. Hello, let's parse the verb form Ušetbûšu-ma. This is one of those forms that are baffling when you first look at them, but which unwrap in a very logical way once you know how to unpick them. This form occurs in the second half of Hammurapi Law 5. So, as to parsing. First of all, which system are we in? G, N, D, or sheen? Our form starts with an U and has a sheen at the front, so there's a good chance we're in the sheen system. Let's take that as our working hypothesis. Next, let's look at the end of the form. The ma at the end looks a lot like the connective particle, and the shu looks suspiciously like a suffix. Indeed, the extra u supports this idea. Where does that leave us as regards root letters? The consonants we haven't explained so far are the t and the b. So let's take it as our hypothesis that these are our root letters. There are only two of them, so this must be a weak verb. Now let's think of the verbal patterns in the sheen system. Perfect uštapris, preterite ušapris, and present ušapras. Our form can't be a sheen perfect, because if it were, it would start with usht, so not the perfect. Let's look at the other two possibilities. They both start with usha, while our form starts with ushe. So let's assume that our verb, whatever it is, has e colouring. That means we will expect to see e in the verb's dictionary form, the G infinitive. So how does our spelling compare to the patterns ušapris and ušapras? First of all, let's set aside what we suspect to be the detachable elements, as they aren't part of the verbal patterns. Then let's slightly spread the letters out so that everything lines up vertically. We can line up the initial u, the sheen of the sheen system, and the vowel that follows it. Here, she, et, is just a way of writing the syllable shet. So though the e is written twice, there's really only one of them. Returning to the question of how our spelling compares to the patterns, we also see that the t matches up with the capital P in the patterns, which is to say, the first root letter. And the B matches up with the capital R in the patterns, which is to say, the second root letter. Assuming our spelling follows one of these patterns, we can explain everything up to the B included. What about the third root letter? There doesn't seem to be one, so we must be dealing with a third weak verb, like banum. But since we suspect our verb has e colouring, it will look more like lekum, which has the same structure as banum, but because of e colouring has e in place of a. Our two root letters are t and b, so the G infinitive will be tebum, and we can look this up in the dictionary. Voila, it exists, which is always reassuring. The dictionary tells us it means to get up, to rise. So in the sheen system, it will mean something like to cause someone to get up, to make someone get up, to cause someone to rise. Now let's go back to our spelling. We still need to explain the u. This looks like a suffix which has contracted with the verb's final vowel. But which suffix? It could be the masculine plural suffix u or the subordinative suffix u. Putting together all our reasoning so far, we're looking at a form which in principle follows one of these patterns. Preterite ušapris-u or ušaprisu, or present ušaprasu or ušaprasu. We can't tell which one just by looking at the spelling, because after vowel contraction, all these forms end up looking the same. But context helps. Our spelling occurs in the second half of a Hammurapi law, where we know that the present tense is used. So in context, the verbal form represented by our spelling must be present or durative, not preterite. Hence, taking account of the e colouring our verb's equivalent of the pattern ušapras, without the u suffix, would be ušetbê. Context also tells us who the subject is. Looking at the context, we can see that there is no reason for it to be subordinative, so that the u must be plural. But there's no obvious plural subject, so it must be impersonal. Our full parsing, then, is that in Ušetbû we have a third masculine plural sheen present of tebum, to get up, meaning they, or someone, shall cause someone else to get up. It follows that shu is the accusative suffix and that ma means and, so that the full form Ušetbûšu-ma means they or someone shall cause him to get up and something else will happen. To recapitulate, we can use colour coding to show which bits of the form contribute which parts of the meaning. In doing this, it's helpful to undo the vowel contraction so we can see the different elements the form is composed of. Finally, the full clause is inakussi daya nutishu Ušetbûšu-ma. We must recall that this law is about a crooked judge. The sentence means, they, or someone, shall cause him to get up from his seat of judgeship and da-di-da-di-da. In other words, the crooked judge will be sacked.